Welcome back to the 7th grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about maintain, holding it down, keeping your shit together in every way so that you can prosper and what it takes to prosper and to maintain. People might ask you for advice. They might ask you for how to get through problems. And a lot of the times I come to the conclusion that you should just keep living. And what I mean by that is if you have made it this far and you are relatively sane and you can pay your bills realistically, then if you keep on in that moderate trajectory, life will teach you a lot of stuff. But you cannot be a blockhead and keep your mind closed to these lessons.
Keep living. You're going to get experience. This shit's going to get
100%. A lot of people of different age groups, they might say things to offend you, or they may appear to be overly confident and lacking awareness of a current situation. And to those people, I say, keep living, because life will humble your ass.
Man, okay, so one of the things that me and you had talked about, different religious sects, whether it's Muslims, Hebrew Israelites, whatever. And I remember when we were in kind of transitioning to college, and you had said some shit, and I'm like, man, it ain't like that. And then I'm like, man, it is like that for some people. You remember some of the homies started getting into frats, and I have no problem with frats or sororities, but I just remember when me and you had a conversation about a particular frat, about a particular group of people, we're like, it's just an excuse not to grow up. Like, these dudes, whenever they get in trouble, they call their frat brother, and they don't deal with the reality of the situation, or they help them through the situation, and it's like they don't learn their lesson. And I see that in other groups now, and that's something that something that should be reserved for family. Sometimes it gets put someplace else. Like, look, you guys, you've heard my situation with my kids, and it's really frustrating when your kid is in the system, because there are certain lessons you want to teach your kid, and somebody else, instead of teaching your kid, they avoid that lesson. They're like, oh man, it's not your fault. Your parents are wrong. And so you see that shit when you see these other situations, these other weird groups. Fraternity sororities, you see that kind of like, hey man, everything you're doing is fine. Now you got people that are in sororities or fraternities that are adults, and they'll give you the real, like, hey man, that's dumb, don't do no dumb shit. Hey girl, cut that shit out. You're gonna fuck yourself up. You're gonna have 8 different baby daddies. Stop that shit. And so I know a couple of people that be doing that Hebrew Israelite thing, and it's like, when you do that shit, you guys are supposed to have like a leader, and
right, but you're talking about the diffusion of responsibility.
Yes. Whoa. Not just that. Hold it. So, this small group has a leader, and they gotta do whatever this dude says or this woman says. But in Hebrew, this dude.
Listen. This is what's going on. The person in that situation, the person giving away power, is used to doing that and wants other people to make life decisions for them, because psychologically they are still a child, even though they're frontal cortex may have completed its growth pattern.
Whoa! I wasn't even going there yet. So, what do you do if the leader is a dickhead? What do you do if the leader is immature and can't take care of himself? And then every decision he makes is to benefit him.
Okay, but now extrapolate that to the workplace. How many times have you got a job somewhere and you realize that the person that you're working for is an egghead, and I'm like, ugh.
Hey man, oh boy, I just saw some shit. I know you ain't a big wrestling fan, but Dusty Rhodes had a thing called Hard Times. Somebody did a spinoff on it, and it called it Technicality. Mm. He said the only reason this person is in charge of you is because of technicality, not because they're better at the job, not because they have more experience, because of technicality, because of who they're related to, or because they got hired sooner, or because who they don't offend. So he called it the only reason that person is in charge of you is because of a technicality, not because they're better qualified, more intelligent, better work ethic, none of that shit. So you those things are called technicalities, because you've worked there. You know what it's like when you work for somebody who does not. You got to explain every damn thing to them. Like, hey, so why are we doing this with the crew? I'm like, are you serious? Or I used to have this female, and she was I can't even use a term, because if I use a term, y'all know where I work. But and so literally, she would call me and be like, Mr. Duct Tape, why haven't we called this crew yet? I'm like, are you serious? Yeah, why haven't we called this crew? Because, it says 8 o'clock. I said, yeah, that's only 800 in the morning. It's 2000 at night, ma'am. It's 2030. Oh, so then next week she works. She does the exact same thing for 3 weeks in a row. So the fourth week she calls me like, let me guess. They're not rested until 8 in the morning. Like, yep.
No. Okay. Let me explain to you. There's something going on there. She's persistent, and she's attempting to impose her will. Now, but here's the thing. This person has gotten away with this many times in their life, but you were the immovable object. And so she had come across this immovable object that she could not penetrate, right? So
she couldn't charm me. She couldn't, get around the reality of
bingo,
you're right.
Bingo. So this person, you see that as naivete, or initially you probably saw that as naivete.
No, that's some passive aggressive bullshit.
That's passive aggressive bullshit. That person was attempting to break you down and get you like, hey guys, look, I know it's $2,000, but this broad keeps calling me. No, the fact that you held the line, you know what I'm saying, is important because, okay, this goes back to the theme that we're talking about of maintaining. Yeah. There are people in your life. Now, this is the psychological portion of this conversation because there are people in your life who will attempt to bully you psychologically or be an emotional terrorist or, attempt to use, different means to manipulate you. So, and this is why you have to hold your line. Look, throughout life, you develop an ethos, right? A code, Budo, like your warrior code that you live by. And this code is a group of ethics that are somewhat righteous. They're based on things that are positive and good in the world.
They mean something to you specifically.
Correct.
Yeah, I hold this.
But they're based on basically the difference between harmony and chaos, right? Because your code overall wants to bring about harmony. Okay, harmony in your life, harmony in your workplace, harmony in your personal life. This person, this saboteur, this psychological terrorist wants to bring about chaos because the chaos is the confusion that they can place like a veil over a situation.
They can control you. Chaos or control. That your chaos is their control. So you got to understand their point of view. Okay. It's much easier when somebody is being a dickhead to you because then you can apply force appropriately. But it's that passive aggressive bullshit that sometimes is much harder to deal with. When Jordan Peterson talks about, we get our rights taken a little bit at a time, we don't always recognize it. I got this person that I work with, and whenever she wants to be aggressive, she doesn't say, "Hey, you're an idiot." What she says is, "I don't understand." Like, okay, you mean to tell me that you got all this education, you don't understand what I'm saying? No, you do understand, but you use that to make me reword it or change and so I stopped doing it. Once I realized that, hey, that's an attack. When somebody says, now there are legitimate people. I'm talking about a specific individual that says they don't understand, that they legitimately don't. Oh, I understand. Help me out. Make this clear to me. I haven't been doing this very long. Cool, but there's other people that say, pay attention. When they say they don't understand, it's so that you reword it. And so I pissed her off by explaining to her. I said, how did I say it? Your understanding is not the barometer by which I speak. I've already explained it to you. Go look it up now. So now y'all can say I'm being a dickhead.
No, that's actually a conversation a parent has with their child. Yeah. Okay.
Preach, brother.
So, but the thing is that you placed it in a way that may have ruptured her ego, but it doesn't matter because either she had this internal dialogue where she says, "Oh fuck,
yes,
these ploys aren't going to work with this guy. I have to try a different tact, or I have to cease and desist." She had that internal dialogue because earlier you said that she had done this 4 or 5 days in a row.
Oh no, a different person, completely different person. Same workplace, yes. Completely different person,
okay.
Completely different scenario.
But similar.
The first person was a boss.
Okay, but see, here's the thing, though. In the stories that you share with us about your dealings with employees, you often mention people that are manipulative, people that look
Yes.
to game the system. And so
Yes.
you also have to understand that there's people that are coming to you like you're a hammer or you're a wrench they can turn to get something done. So there are people that are truly naive to a situation, and then there are people who are feigning ignorance.
Okay, I'm gonna like I said. See, you know where I work, but the only reason I brought that first person, these are two separate people. I brought the first person up is because she's a boss. She literally back then, this was say 7 years ago, she was making 130 grand, and I wasn't. Let's just be honest. And
But this
so
isn't
she was
Calamity Jane, though, is it?
no, 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 no,
Okay.
no. Oh, Calamity Jane did make good money, but you understand you understand that person. So she literally did not get military time. But the thing is, how did you get to this job? You've been working here as long as not quite as long as me. She had been working here at the time I'd been at the company.
Because that
Say,
person, okay, you ain't got to break it all the way down. I'll give you the simple version. That
yeah, yeah, yeah.
person is book smart. Like, okay.
But no, and hold on, you're leaving out one factor. This person's attractive, and people let her get away with a lot of shit.
Okay, but I was getting to that.
Unfortunately,
That's what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah,
That's what I'm
yeah.
telling you. This cheerleader, okay, has used her looks to
Mm.
shish boom bow rah rah, get by, and read just enough to sound semi intelligent at cocktail parties. Okay,
Also, the other thing is that
but
there
hold on, hold on,
are
hold on, hold on, hold on. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. This is why it's not a woman thing, because there's plenty of brilliant
oh
women in the armed forces. Any
period.
any woman that was a soldier or a sailor or an airman would have gotten that. They wouldn't have been in the conversation. They would have got it right
Yeah,
away.
yeah,
And be like,
period.
all right, cool, I got you.
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing. It's just the fact
Because
that
that person, that's already been trained into that person. You know what I'm saying?
okay. And so here's the deal, Roscoe. I've been in the company 17 years. She's been in the company 10 years. You mean to tell me in 10 years you ain't figured out military time?
No, no, no,
Either
no, no. You haven't figured out the fact that the company that you're working for operates on military time. You haven't figured. No, no, no. You haven't figured out why the company you work for operates on military time. You don't understand the whole mechanism behind that.
But
Okay.
this goes back to your original part of manipulation and soft manipulation. Now, here's another situation. So I got a young lady on the phone. She is in a similar position as the first lady. She's a further up manager making good money. And so there's a crew on the phone. She calls me about this crew. I said, I need you. She says, I need you to tell this crew to do this. I'm like, well, ma'am, honestly, they're already on duty. That's your responsibility. And she proceeds to tell me, they won't listen. I said, I got this. So I call the dude. He picks up, and the first, I'm like, hey, I need you to do this, this, and this. He's like, I need y'all to make up your mind. I said, I just did. I'm the dispatcher. I'm explaining to you where to go. If you have a problem with that, then you need to find a different position. But for what I'm telling you to do, I have made the decision. Is something else? Well, I'm in the limo already. Well, tell the limo driver to turn around. And so then, after I hung up from him, I said, does that help? She's like, yeah. I said, yeah. You are in charge. So when they push back on you, you push back on them. You don't have to be unprofessional. You just explain. Well, you need to make up your mind. I said, I did make the decision. This is the first time you spoke to me today. I'm explaining to you what your position is. If you have some other problem with it, this ain't the line of work for you. It's,
Somewhat unrelated, but I was
oh yeah,
at I was at Walmart yesterday, and I was picking up something, and I was over by the TV section, and I'm wearing a collar shirt, so I look like an adult, and and this Korean, I'm standing there. I had to be standing like in front of this 55-inch TV screen or TV that's like in a box, and this I see these two Korean women, older Korean women, standing next to me arguing about something, and then the older one turns to me and she says, she asked me in a very thick accent, can she use this TV as a computer monitor? And I say, yes, because all these TVs now are essentially just computer monitors,
yeah. You just plug in. Yeah.
And the
It's,
guy that works in that area, he was like standing there, looking kind of like PO'd because I'm basically doing his job. So I was like, right, bruh? And he was like, and he shakes his head no. I'm like, hey, these are essentially computer monitors. He's like, well, you can hook it up to a TV. I'm like, who's watching over the air TV? Who's watching TV broadcast over the air in the year
Anymore.
2022?
Yeah.
So let's stop that. I said, what she wants to do is plug this up with an HDMI cable to her laptop, so she can use it. She probably has like bad nearsight vision, so she wants
doing a presentation or something,
or whatever. And you know what I'm saying, she wants a huge computer screen. I said, yes, ma'am. I said, and she had an HDMI cord in her house. I said, with this cable right here, you plug it into the TV. You plug it into this TV, and then you plug it into your laptop, and away you go. You know, and this I said right, and then he's looking like pissed off. I was like, all right, we're done here. I'm like, and I just walked away. I was like, I said, I just answered her question for her. Done. I just walked away. And I'm like, dude, like, don't make this about petty shit. The woman just wants her question answered. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so here's what is really going on.
But I mean, but essentially, these TVs are, listen, let's call it what they are. They're computer monitors.
No.
They have cameras and microphones in them.
Hold it. The guy that worked there and the daughter or the sister that she was arguing with, both are saying the same thing. They're saying, no, you can't. And then you walk up and say, yeah, yo, sis, you're right. You can use this as a computer screen. All you do is plug your computer into it, and it becomes a computer screen. There's nothing special, about a computer screen.
Right.
A computer screen might be a slightly bit more durable than a regular TV, as in because it'll stay up.
Now, a traditional television does have an RCA or coaxial cable input on the back of it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So only so that you can hook up an antenna or hook up coaxial cable.
Yep.
But she wants to use it as a computer monitor. Yeah. So guess what? It's a computer monitor.
But my point is, the person she was talking to, the female she was arguing with, whoever that was telling her the same thing that damn salesman told her. Was telling her. And the only reason is because it benefited
she knew it herself. She needed somebody to confirm it for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like, she asked me, like, do you work here? I was like, no. She's like, it doesn't matter. Because she could tell, like, I'm like, you smart enough to answer this fucking question.
Yeah, just give me some real male energy.
Yes, that's exact. She was like traditional Korean woman. You know what I'm saying? Like old lady. She's like, I need a man in this situation, please.
This carburetor right here is fucking up. Can you help? Yeah, I can help a little bit. That's all I need. I'm really doing this shit on my own. Whatever business she was doing it on her own.
Mm-hmm.
So she was smart. But again, the point we're trying to make is that sometimes people are manipulative, and sometimes people just want the truth. And sometimes they use that shit as a manipulating tool, and other times it's actually pure, hey, can I use this as a computer screen? Mm-hmm. Hey, can you tell these guys what's up? And so, again, how many times do women tell you people accept what you're saying because you're a male? And then you have to explain to them, like, people accept what I'm saying because they know I know what I'm talking about. That's what this is about. Okay, there are chauvinistic people, male and female. That's true. That is true. But many times the reason they don't accept what you're saying is because they can hear the doubt in your voice, or they can tell that you don't have enough information about this subject. And so that's what it is. I told a story that, you know this, I had a friend that called me one night and said, hey, my friend works for UP. She needs some help. I'm like, okay. So I meet with them at 1:00 in the morning. We're having lunch, like we're having dinner at like Perkins or Village Inn or something. And this lady proceeds to explain to me, I don't understand how, that these guys are racist, these guys are sexist. I said, hey, that might be true, but that's not the problem. You're the problem in this situation. And I proceeded to tell her, like, a lot of black women and black men too, but mostly black women, when y'all learn a new job, y'all don't pay attention to the training. You just assume you're going to pick it up. And this job, you can't pick up like that. You literally have to take notes. And what it is these people have told you 4 or 5 times, and you don't understand it. You don't have a point of reference. I said, what you need to do, transfer to a different terminal, keep the same job, but this time you take notes. That's what she did. She actually did what I said. And when she did it, like, next thing I know, she was my damn boss. They moved her from Des Moines to Omaha. She became my boss. But she was like, hey, she said, Tape, you was right. I said, yes. Most of us as black folks don't understand this. We're the smartest people in the room. And so that usually works on our advantage. But there are jobs, career choices, technical shit that you just can't pick up by just watching. And so then you get in a real situation And what you think at this job, you think saying that, hey, I got it is okay. Like, hell, I'm doing it with my daughter. I say, hey, baby, your car needs oil change. I know. She loves to say, I know. And I'm like, a month later, hey, what's going on with my car? I thought you said you knew. So that right there, that attitude where you're trying to prove something, that's not the way you need to be. Sometimes you got to be humble and take in that information. Sometimes you got to become familiar with the situation. Um, that maintaining thing sometimes hurts us because we're so used to maintaining that we don't recognize that either that we need help or we don't know how to ask for help properly. And sometimes when you are ignorant, you don't even know what to ask for. And nobody wants to understand. That's another thing that comes up. Like, look, ask me whatever question you got. I can't ask a question because I have no point of reference. You sent me some deep shit the other day about that Katrina kids. And oh boy, just said
Katrina
that
babies.
Yeah, he said some really deep shit. He said, it's this whole perseverance thing ain't fair. You're saying that we're strong and we're persevering. I'll be the judge if I'm persevering or not. You're sitting because I'm standing right here and I'm walking around and I'm working. You think I made it? I did not make it. I am not okay. Part of me got killed back there, and so that's a.
So you watched the whole thing?
I watched the commercial. I ain't watched the show yet.
Mm.
And so that's just an example of how people, I know a lot of black women, and one of them was like, I'm tired of people telling me I'm strong. I'm tired of being strong. I'm like, do you want to be vulnerable? She's like, no, I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to be in a situation where I have to be strong all the time. That's what she's saying. She's not saying she's weak. She's saying,
what would your mom say in a situation like that?
Oh, dude, don't you do that to me.
Please,
Okay.
please. Like,
okay.
I think maybe the next time you go see her, like, take a mic with you, take 2 mics with you, and just don't interview her as your son.
So one time there's a friend I had a friend. I was really close to her, this girl, and she was like, man, she said, I just want some help. I just, I'm just tired of doing it on my own. And so I had told my mom, I'm like, man, such and such, man, she just wants some help. And my mom like, what? Like, yeah, man, my mom said, fuck help. I'm like, oh shit. Well, my mom said, help is when you need to lift something heavy and you need somebody on the other side to lift it. But help is not something you need in your daily life. You create a situation where you don't need help. That should be your goal. Like, when you're a child, you're immature. You're 17 going into 25, somewhere in there, you'll need help because you need guidance and you don't have experience. But you don't need help every day. You're not supposed to need help just to live. Now, she's like, my mom, like, if you're missing an arm, then you might need some help picking up shit, but you don't need to, you still learn how to live like that and wipe your own ass and do it. I'm like, oh shit, why the hell did she say that? So my mother, the idea of help is a temporary thing. Help is temporary. It's for you to, not just to get to the other side, but once you learn how to do this shit on your own, then you no longer need help. Or once you get your technique down. And so, yeah, my mom was like, this is a true story. This happened like in 1999. I remember.
So we're talking about the difference between like crutches and a wheelchair.
Yeah. She's like, but crutches is like you break your ankle, it's temporary. A wheelchair, okay, I don't have any legs anymore, but a wheelchair. But
you're dependent on that for your mobility.
But you're still a whole person is what my mom is saying. So even though part of you is damaged, you're still a whole person. And that's the thing that when you talk to your kids nowadays, you try to teach your kids, you have empathy, but not sympathy. Like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, that guy's in a wheelchair. If I see him or a woman's in a wheelchair and I see her trying to get something over her head, I'll help her with that. But she's still, or he or she's still a whole person. They're still somebody's parent. They're still somebody's loved one. Just because they're in a wheelchair does not mean they're broken. You understand? And so that's something that you got to teach your kids is like, okay, see, like we live in Omaha and we see all these homeless people. Me and you growing up, we never saw homeless people here. You saw like 1 or 2 downtown, but you got these motherfuckers with signs. And my kids are like, hey man, I'm like, this is Omaha. Dude, this is a $15
No. Well, stop that for a second because you got to understand some perspective because as a kid, they weren't called homeless people. They were called bums or winos. Okay? Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait.
That's 70s talk. That's 70s talk.
But our parents, though, kept these words going into the 80s. You know what I'm saying? And so
100.
And so, you know what I'm saying? Okay, you would never see a young person homeless in the 80s or 90s unless they were a runaway. That is when you would see that, right? And homeless people, homeless adults, were people who pretty much had given up on society. And here's the reason why. Because up until the late 80s, the mentally unstable people were in state institutions. And then Reagan got rid of that and released all those people into the streets. So that's part of the reason why we didn't see so many homeless people as kids, because all those people who couldn't keep it together mentally were being cared for by the state.
Well, also, we didn't understand crack either. We didn't understand drugs.
Yeah, I did. I
I mean,
did.
no, I'm saying they existed, and
You,
I'm saying
you talking about are
knew
you talking
about it.
about BC or after crack?
I'm talking before crack. I'm talking about just with heroin and so you didn't understand. Some of them people were addicts, and some of them people, like you said, just tuned out to society. We know a guy that just tuned out to society, not because he's an addict, because he didn't want to be an adult. There are people, but even back then, if you were slow, they had jobs for you. And that's something that me and you had talked about on past podcasts, that back in the day, they had jobs, they had regular factory jobs. So if say you were slow, say you had a mental deficiency, you would go and pull that lever for 8 hours a day, and you made enough money to take care of yourself, and you still got married and you had kids. We knew kids that had retarded parents, but you did what they did what their mom and daddy said, though. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't this bullshit where yeah, mom, you don't know what you're talking about. Nah, we ain't had that back then. So it was. I think that this maintaining thing is really deep because there's a mental maintaining, there's a physical and a financial maintaining, and
Okay,
all these different things.
let's get into work for a second, because when man consumed knowledge, he had to work the land for food and shelter. It is the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That is where the word gnosis originates. Okay, because once man ate of that fruit, he gained knowledge. Okay, and so Cain is the firstborn of Adam and Eve. Cain was actually reincarnated as Esau, but Cain went out and began to construct cities. In the book of Enoch, it mentions that Cain was given the knowledge of metallurgy by a fallen angel, and he used that to create weapons and armor. So it is that beginning in history. Now, here's the thing: there were civilizations outside of the Garden of Eden, but within the Garden of Eden, and the people that left the Garden of Eden, who went out into society to build cities and to create weapons and to wage war on man. This was knowledge that was given to man by fallen angels. And people don't talk about this a lot because these come from these books that were taken out of the Bible to grow society in this warped pace. And
It was meant to send society in a specific direction.
mm-hmm. And it did, because it became a control mechanism, because it was Constantine and the Council of Nicaea that knew that, okay, well, we can hide these books, and if these people don't have knowledge of their true origin, or they don't have knowledge of who tampered with humanity, then we can make people think that life began at this point and it started with growing in this direction because of XYZ and not because of ABC. And so with the man having this knowledge of good and evil, that free will allows that man to choose between the former or the latter. And so because of that, that's how these civilizations are built, that are controlled by men, that withhold information to keep themselves powerful, to keep you ignorant.
I think something else that people don't recognize is how many civilizations we don't learn about, or they don't tell you about, or you'll hear a little bit here and there, and then you realize the reason they don't talk about those civilizations is because those civilizations had different guide rules than the one we're pushing, and so.
But see, not only that, those civilizations were actually being influenced by aliens and fallen angels. And so, because
They could be, but I'm just saying there are other
well,
civilizations that we
there's
specifically.
proof of it. But what I'm saying is
Yeah.
that, after the war in heaven, after this war that happened on Mars and it came to Earth, then there was Atlantis and there were Mu and Lemuria and all these other civilizations that were started. Those civilizations were affected by fallen angels. People just think that because the Bible is the book of Christianity, that the fallen angels only mess with people in this one area. Mm-mm.
And that was something that your dad had talked about a long time ago. He was like, you know, you talk about this area, but there's a whole world over here. There are people over here. There are people here. And he's like, when you talk about the Bible, you're only talking about this small area right here. And that's what you got to pay attention to. Is like we're only talking about a small particular area when there was people over here. There's shit
Well,
over here.
but look at Asian civilizations though. Like they existed, far before the stories that were told in the Bible, and it makes you wonder, like, well, okay, what timeline are we supposed to be going
Exactly.
on?
Exactly. Even the Bible itself, the stories in the Bible exist before the Bible. They were put together at one point. So you keep finding like the story of the flood. There's so many different stories of the flood where it's crazy. Like in one instance, they find this book at this market, and they had this book for like 100 years sitting in this library, and nobody really read it. They just kind of kept it because it was it's an old book. So they finally opened the book and started reading it, and in this book, the flood, the ark wasn't a boat. The ark was a pyramid, and all of a sudden people got scared. Like, okay, maybe the pyramids in Egypt were part. It's some
Okay,
crazy.
but check this out. So now, if you were to believe the stories that were told in the Bible, chronologically as they are, and based on
Yep, they're in the wrong order. Yep.
the Torah and those books, you would think that, oh, okay, well, civilization is only 6,000 years old. No, that story is 6,000 years old. So because you have mines in South Africa that are 150,000 years old.
You have mines in South America that are that old. You have mines
So
in
then,
Mexico
then you're
that are
like,
at least
okay, so
6,000.
these are the civilizations outside of the garden. So you want me to follow this story and abide by these rules? I will, and that's fine. But don't tell me that this was the only one.
Yeah. Yep.
When there's evidence to that there were other people. So of course, if these humans were created by God and the angels were jealous, the fallen angels were jealous, then of course there were other humans who had their civilizations, and angels saw this, fallen angels saw this, and they were jealous and they wanted to interfere. Of course, that did happen in these other civilizations. I think what the Bible shows people is that this is the process of how it happens. This is the process of the creation of life. This is the process of how the fall of man happens, and the consequences of that fall and these choices that are made. Like, for example, Jacob deceived his brother into giving over his birthright, right?
Yep. Yep.
And
That can happen to anybody.
right, but Jacob is the Israelites are the descendants of Abraham, okay, and Abraham is related to Jacob, and this is the second born. Jacob is the second born, and so when you read into these Hebrew books, these ancient Hebrew books, you start to like come across some very interesting information. You come across the fact that they believe there are only 600,000 Israelite souls, and they want those souls to be incarnated into bodies, and everybody else will be slaves. But of course, as time goes on, to free people from slavery, what they'll do is they create robots or golems to do their biddings. And then it's like, okay, you dig deeper and further into that, and you see this whole push for androgyny and how their concept of androgyny goes back to the first man, and how the first man is actually androgynous, and how the
Yeah.
woman was made from him. And so to be pure and immortal, you have to go back to this original androgyny, which is cloning and AI and also nanotechnology to create this vessel that can hold these 600,000 Israelite souls. So then what
Look,
about everybody else? Well, everybody else can perish because they don't matter.
look. Here's the problem. With what you're saying is that you got people that actually feel this way,
But
and you don't realize it.
Jacob deceived before and will deceive again.
Hold on. Go back to the first person being like a hermaphrodite. So when you read, if you go by what the Bible says, it says that Adam was first, and then Eve was half of him. And so when you're in college, you start learning this crazy shit. Where okay, so
But
he's a hermaphrodite.
but then see, here's the deal though. People will tell you that Eve was first. But then you hear about how there was an experiment to make another woman, and her name was Lilith. And she always wanted to be on top when they were having
No,
sex.
no, okay. Lilith, if you going by the Hebrew, I can't think. I want to say it's the
This is what the Gnostics teach.
Oh no, there are Hebrew books before the Bible, and the book said Lilith was Adam's first wife. Eve is not Adam's first wife. This is what Adam was still a hermaphrodite. His first wife was Lilith, and that's who all these when all these witches, they all worship that Lilith. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about Lilith, and Lilith is his first wife. And so they had an argument about who's going to be on top during sex. And she said, we both can be on top. And Adam said, no, I want to be on top. And ever since then, she's been tormenting Adam and his kids ever since. So a short time later, that's when God
here's
separated.
the thing, though. Then where did she go?
Oh, no, she still roams the earth. And she's like,
and did she have babies with fallen angels?
The answer is, of course, it's going to be yes, because, or was she a fallen angel, or what was she? But the bottom line is that his first wife was not human. And this is what you start when you start reading these older texts, you find out that his first wife was not a person.
Okay, so check this out. This is what I want to interject right here and add something to this, because this adds a layer of confusion into a person's belief system, because they're like, well, what do I believe? Check this out. You have an internal compass. You actually have something that fallen angels want, that they are jealous of, that demons want. It is your soul. And baby, what you got to understand is that thing that animates you is super duper precious. And hold on, and that the whole idea of selling a soul is ridiculous, because you can't give a person something that you don't really have a whole lot of control over yourself. So this is what I'm saying, is that everybody wants what you have. And so when I speak to maintaining, when I speak to holding it down, the power of the Creator is in you. And you hold on now. You are a spark of that Creator. Okay? So for you to manifest that representation in its highest form is to live a life of virtue. Okay? Is to live by a code, to stay away from chaos. It was it was Noah. After he got everybody off the ark, he planted a vineyard and he began to drink wine. And it was when he got drunk that his son saw him like that, right? He saw him naked. And because wine, even in Egyptian society, represented chaos. The Egyptians didn't like wine. Wine represents chaos. Chaos is the manifestation of darkness or evil in matter. So, and it is the perception of these people who want these 600,000 souls to be incarnate in these androgynous immortal bodies. These androgynous immortal bodies is because they are courting chaos, because they are eventually looking to strike back at the creator and destroy the God that created them and take control, because these ideas are planted in their minds by fallen angels who also court darkness, who also worship chaos, because
They're jealous. Yep.
chaos and can up in the apple cart and can change the balance of power. So that's
Totally.
why, going back to Noah, when he drank of the wine that he made, because that was the knowledge of good and evil. Planting that vine, growing the grapes, taking the grapes, not eating the grapes, taking the grapes, and then making wine out of it. That brought about the chaos.
There's a couple concepts that people don't really get. First one, not all people are human. That's going to piss you off. That's something that we just told you. Adam's first wife.
And it's hard to grasp this also for a lot of people.
Yeah. I'm not trying. And the thing is, I'm not trying to change your belief system, because first things first. The thing about me is, you know this. My brother knows this. I don't like to use the word believe, because when you break down the word believe, is be and lie. That's what the word believe comes from. Be and lie. It means to bring a lie into being. So when you sit there and say, I believe in God, what you're saying is, I agree with this lie. You're calling God a lie, but I'm acknowledging. So no, I don't believe in God. I have faith. Faith is the evidence of things hoped for and the substance of things not seen. That's the biblical definition. So when you ask me about my feelings on Elohim, I say that I have faith. I don't say I believe, because you got to be careful using that word, because these words are spells and they got shit wrapped up in them. And the other thing that, like I said, people really don't get the concept. Everybody walking around is not human. And this goes back to the whole Nephilim. This goes back to the fallen angels. This goes back to all these different things. Whenever you watch these anthropological shows, we found another species of human. You found another species, not necessarily human. And that's so when you find out, like, from a biblical standpoint, Noah's sons took all these wives, and Adam's sons took these wives. I'm like, there is some incest in the Bible, but literally, who are they breeding with when they're going to these other places? So that's that shit that nobody wants to have that full conversation about. So look, when we talk about maintaining, sometimes you can't take things verbatim. Sometimes you do got to take them verbatim, and then you got to use your discernment. Like, okay, man, there's more to this situation, or wow, what were they talking about? And so you literally. So when you have a guy like Elon Musk, who I can't stand, but he's warning you about AI, he's warning you about that shit. Like, as big a dickhead as that man is, when he's warning, like, hey man, this AI thing, when we talk about crossbreeding and everybody, you can marry a woman, but if you guys want to have a kid, all this shit, be careful. This quote unquote rampant technology, because that's the shit that my brother's telling you, is that these people want, because it creates chaos. It creates a world that was not intended by God. And when that shit happens, man is trying to become God. And not everybody thinks that way. Not everybody is that way. But what do you do if the job you work at or the society you're in is going towards that direction? And you're like, oh, this is just technology. No, it's not technology. A lot of this shit is prophecy. And that's not prophecy I subscribe to. So don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to say this shit is weird. Don't be afraid to, like, you know what? I don't want nothing to do with that shit over there.
The process of maintaining is also knowing when to decompress. And
it's important. Very important.
So decompression will happen to you, or you will seek it out. But
whether you like it or not, it's going to hit you.
But I'm going to tell you something. You can stand to learn from other cultures when it comes to learning how to decompress. And when I was a kid, I watched a lot of ninja movies and samurai movies and kung fu movies. And they would always have these fights in these tea houses, or like an onsen, which is a Japanese bathhouse. So I was like, why are these people going to like sit in these hot tubs? Why are these people going to get these massages? Like, what is
why
about?
Why are they taking baths all the time?
But as a kid, you're like, oh, that's, whatever. That's their culture. That's what they do. And then, I started to like become obsessed with Japanese history, and I would study it. And I'm like, well, people were on the road. They would travel, and in between the cities, there were these bathhouses where travelers could come in from, being on the road walking or riding on a horse or in a carriage, and they could take a hot bath, they can get a massage, and whatever else the bathhouse or the onsen offered. And then I was like, okay, that's genius, right? Because it's a way of maintaining your vitality, you know, even though you're in this rugged Civil War, crazy ass society where you can get killed with a sword. And then, you know, I came upon the Korean equivalent of that, and these Korean saunas, they are very similar. They're based on Chinese medicine. And so, like, I began to check these out, and first time I went to one, I was like, oh, these people have the right idea.
I get it.
But hold on. No. There's something that ties with that, because when I first went overseas, the first country that I went to was Italy. And when I went to Italy, and I was there, I was working on a documentary film, and then I ventured off to do some like fun stuff. And I started going by these parks, and I saw these Italian people just laid out on blankets, chilling, drinking wine, eating cheese, and just, you know, like lounging super hard. And I was like, oh, these people know how to chill. They weren't doing it in the same way that Americans. There was nobody there throwing a football, throwing a frisbee. There was nobody walking a dog. None of that shit. These people were laid out, chilling. I'm like, oh, these people know how to fucking relax. And I started to get this in my head that, like, adults go so hard, but they don't know how to relax. They enjoy a lot of chaos. And I was like, okay, so the wine, the liquor, that's chaos, right? It can bring on belligerent behavior if you don't keep it in check, right? If you go out of bounds.
They don't do that. See, the European places, they don't get drunk like they do over here.
Not really. Well, Greece they do, but check it out.
They party, but what I'm saying is when they decompress, the wine is not. It's
restrained. It's restrained relaxation. But the thing is that we're going to do it in a civil manner so that everybody can enjoy this. So then I went to the Korean spa, and I was like, oh, this is using Chinese medicine to build myself back up, because I tear my body down, going hard, working hard. You know, of course, and before all that, before I did any of that stuff, I began meditating. And meditating was a way of maintaining myself, and that was internal. And then I saw the external component of that, which was this, and I'm like, oh yeah, go in there, get a good sweat, get the toxins out of your body, get the toxins out of your blood, out of your organs, out of your bones, and relax. You know, just relax. And then, because when I would wake up the next day, you see, you don't feel it right away, but when you wake up the next day, you jump out of the bed like you're 7 years old. When you were 7 years old, you just jump out the bed. You just jump up and you go.
And the guy was calling you like, hey, dude, what we doing today?
Exactly. That's what you do. You just get up and go. You know what I'm saying? You go on adventures. As you age, you know, you get up and like, you know, you get up in the morning, you feel the heaviness of your body, you know? And I think what that is, you felt the displacement of the toxins that were in your body that moved from one place to another. So I
think also our
inflammation.
Well, yeah, okay. I was gonna say the miseducation of us is so important, because you know, when you think that pain is natural and that you can't do nothing about it, but when you look at these Eastern medicines, it's all about getting the toxins.
It's
and then
holistic.
You realize, well, not just holistic. It's all about getting toxins out of you.
Okay.
And literally, when you play basketball, I remember. I was at Creighton. I was playing basketball, and I remember walking by a pop machine. And this is back when they had the Minute Maid soda, and it said the official soda of the NBA. So I'm like, I'm playing basketball, so let me drink it. Worst decision ever. So we played like 13 games that day, and
you felt like shit.
I drank a soda. Man, I got such bad fucking cramps in my legs and my arms because I introduced that bullshit in my system. I caused that lactic acid to burn my own muscles. But again, I was never taught that. I learned that.
But you fell for the marketing hype.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I was a kid. Come on. We were in high school at the time, and you know I was at Creighton in the summer, so you know the situation. But when you see that marketing, when you see the official soda of the NBA, you thinking that, oh, this is what the NBA athletes drink, not knowing that that's just marketing. That's just a hustle. And I drank this orange soda, and I actually burnt my own muscles. I caused the lactic acid to build up. But again, we're not taught that. We're not taught what to eat, when to eat, and how to eat. We're taught that if you hurt, then you go see a doctor. We're not taught that we can maintain our own health on our own.
Or listen, even as a kid, they would show Snickers as the official energy boost of athletes, and I'm like, I knew that was bullshit. I'm like, there's no way these gymnasts, Olympic gymnasts, are doing these flips and going for the gold, eating some bullshit ass, sugary ass Snicker bar. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I never liked Snickers. They were always gross to me. I was a Mars bars guy.
But the whole issue was like if an athlete ate that, it would be for instant. They're like, look, I need this for instant energy. They would tell you, and they would eat half of one. Like they're like, no, I eat half of one, instant energy, in a competition, blah blah blah. I didn't eat the day before. It's all kinds of shit that you weren't learning. I didn't eat.
But they wouldn't tell you, like, if you just eat an apple or you just eat an orange, you get clean energy that boosts you. They don't tell you that because that's not something that you can market. It just grows on a tree.
This whole thing, anything that grows on a tree is bad now. But then again, we've talked on past podcasts about that shit. About where did that come from? That came from Rockefeller. That came from
you got right to it. So here's the deal. So you go to these Korean spas and you go get these toxins out of your system, which come from the petroleum and the gas that you're burning that's in the air. That comes from these processed foods that come from the education system that was created by the Rockefeller, because he said, I don't want a nation of thinkers, so I'm going to create a school system that makes people obedient and not...
Carnegie, Rockefeller, and
yes, that makes people workers. And I'm like, okay, if this is a worker nation, then I'm not going to know how to heal myself. I got to look to other cultures on how to heal myself. And, that's some crazy shit. Is it? No, you sound like you're brainwashed, dude.
The brainwashing is so thorough. Here's the deal. So when you even talk about racism, people get offended. When you even talk about sexism, people get offended. When you even talk about, you know what, change your diet, you can change your life. Look, there are so many things that we consume, and I don't just mean food consume. I mean mental consume, visually consume. So many things we consume, we don't realize it's designed to control us and take our money. And it's designed for us to benefit others and not benefit ourselves. And so what do you do when you don't even know how to take care of yourself? And we see it. I see it now because, I've dated a lot of women. A lot of them, when they leave home early, they don't get anything they need to take care of themselves. They don't get the knowledge they need to take care of themselves. And they have to acquire it through trial and error. And that shit is dangerous. If you own, that means that's like you starting you're just one person and you have no benefit of anybody that came before you. Do you know how tragic that shit is? So
but this keeps happening over and over. So then you get these family trees that keep getting reset again and again and again.
What we're describing is black people in America, where you have no generational wealth, you have very little knowledge passed down. And the knowledge you do have is being told to you that is either inaccurate or is being told to you, oh man, that doesn't benefit you. So we literally have to start over every 2 or 3 generations
with the birth of every child.
Yeah, and that shit right there, that is detrimental, and that's how this society has controlled us. And now we always warn you about our podcast. Everything they do to black people, they do to everybody else afterwards. Look, I'm having a talk with a young lady yesterday. I'm trying to explain to her, like, she thinks that Native Americans are light skinned with straight. I'm like, no, black people were already over here. And when you try to explain that to people, you got enough dumb people that learn from watching TV. I'm like, no, the more you learn, the more you realize that there were black tribes already over here. We don't know how they got here. We don't get it. That's not important. What's important is that this land was owned by a black person before it was owned by
boats.
Hold it. I just said I understand how boats work. I'm just saying we don't know. There were people here before there were supposed to be people here. This goes back to what you're saying about the Bible and the 6,000 year narrative. They love to push that on you because then.
Oh, how about the Cheddar Man that's been found in the UK, or that link I sent you about the black people that were in Ireland before the whites from Russia came to populate Ireland?
And me and you. So here's what we don't understand. We don't understand how the world got populated. So when you start doing that research, so the original inhabitants of Ireland are black with blue eyes. So when these motherfuckers from Russia, these farmers, took Ireland from them, what did they do with the original Irish people? They were moved from Ireland to the Caribbean. Look that shit up. You guys will have a hard time finding it. But the original, so you got Irish, you have black Irish people in Jamaica, in St. Kitts, in these little islands down there. And it don't make sense how they got there. And another thing, reason this happens is not for the reason you think. So when these white folks start exploring the world, there were already black people there. So they figured we'll just move some more black people there. That's why they did it. When we talk about slavery, okay, I'm going to give you an example of a lie that's in plain sight. Let's talk about Lewis and Clark. So if you don't believe black people were here already, who was Lewis and Clark's guide? Their slave, York. So if this guy's a slave from Africa, how can he be their guide? Because they enslaved the people that were there already. So when Lewis and Clark gets here, they got this slave called York. Look it up. He was their guide. How the fuck can I be your guide if I'm from Africa?
And was he breaking off Pocahontas when they wouldn't look at? Is what I want to know.
They don't want to talk about that, nigga. They don't want to talk about him and Pocahontas looking just alike. They don't talk about that. So that's the whole thing, is that they tell you shit and we accept it, but we don't think it. Stop thinking half-ass. Stop half-ass thinking. How about that? So when they tell you they had a slave that there was their guide, he was York. So how would York, if he's a slave from Africa, know about motherfucking the Louisiana Purchase? How would he be able to show them around? That nigga was not from Africa. He probably was from here already. And they snatched his ass up. When these white people enslaved people, they didn't bring Africans with them. They enslaved the people that were already there. That's how this shit works. And so when they sit here and tell you this shit, you don't question it because you've already been brainwashed by Carnegie, by Ford and everybody. Is it a book? Who owns McGraw-Hill? The people that make the textbooks? Look up who owns that company. And yes, it goes back to the Carnegies and all that shit. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So my dad gave me this book when I was a little kid and taught me about all these great figures in African history. And one of them was this black dude named Esteban. And Esteban was the scout that showed the Spaniards when they were coming up into California and Arizona, Nevada, and like all the entire West Coast. He had been all over those areas and showed them where to go. How did this guy know all this shit? Who was he contacting? Who was he in contact with? Who was his plugs? Who was his connects?
Yeah, see, the thing was, he was the connect. We're not told.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, but who were his people?
You asked what tribe is he? I don't know where he was from. But that's the whole shit.
That's the question.
Every time, let's talk about Christopher Columbus. Again, we know about the Moors now. But when Christopher Columbus got lost, how did he find his way? Look back at Berkeley, they have his log. He says Moors told him where to find land. He's over here. He's in his boat. We're lost. He looks over and Moors like, "Hey, you all right, man?" And they're like, "Hey, man, you got land 2 days away. Keep going this way. You'll find land." The Moors gave him directions. He's telling you, black Moors gave him directions. So if them black Moors were already over here, every time you turn around, is a black man giving y'all directions. Is a black man showing you around. I'm just saying. So why I would say is the black man the lowest motherfucker on the social ladder? Because I'm not. KRS-One said it. You ain't gonna rob somebody that ain't got nothing worth having. We got everything worth having, and it's really important that you guys recognize the fact that the reason that America was deemed South America, North America, Turtle Island, whatever the fuck you want to call this motherfucker, was known to have gold. So if it was already black and brown people here, it's necessary for us to make up a whole narrative like, no, man, this ain't your land. No, this land is for everybody. Or this isn't your land. We relocated you. like we couldn't relocate ourselves. You dig what I'm saying? So what they're trying to tell you is that this land belongs to the white man because he says so. No, it does not. And so you need to recognize that's some bullshit. That's bullshit, Mr. Handman.
So check it out. So speaking of bullshit, Mr. Handman, it's important that you remember that the original people in the biblical stories were deceived by their siblings. And these people will attempt to deceive you again into believing and thinking certain things, while meanwhile, they are creating artificial intelligence. They are creating ways to clone a male cell, skin cell, and to create a womb to grow another body in it artificially.
Artificial womb, yes.
So then what's going on is they want to create this society of immortals, and they can then place these souls through transcendence into these vessels. Now, people don't use context when considering all these new technologies, but
or when they read the Bible either, because
right,
they're describing that shit
right.
to
But the
today's
church and the
terms. Yeah,
state was purposely kept separate
separated.
so
Yes.
that it's easier to control that way. It's not because, oh, we don't like the way they do things. No, it's all about knowledge and power and control.
So when you talk about Henry Ford, and let's talk about medicine. So you literally, if somebody tries to use natural medicine, they're a quack. You understand? So this pill is better for you than so literally, the Egyptians used that black seed oil and honey. There's an article on the internet right now how this man cured himself of AIDS using black seed oil and honey. That is an Egyptian recipe that's been around for 5,000 or 6,000 years. Even now to this day, that we just found out that when you walk in these buildings and you see copper on the handle, they found out that copper kills COVID. Copper kills. They were doing that shit back in Egypt. If you don't believe me, it's on the Smith Papyrus. It's 3,500 years old. What I'm saying is that we have real medicine that's been working for a long time, but we're convinced that if it doesn't come from a doctor or a pill or this certified guy over here, it's not medicine. And then even when you I got friends that have cancer. I'm like, hey man, this will help with your cancer. You think that's going to help better than this doctor? I'm like, yeah, actually I do. That's why I cared enough about you to say something, motherfucker. Like I literally I got apricot pits at my desk at work. I grind them up and put them in my coffee. I don't put my coffee. I put them in my tea because I don't drink coffee. Excuse me. I have a coffee grinder. I put apricot pits because I've had skin cancer. I don't want this shit again. You know what I'm saying?
And the crazy part about it is, for those who have never seen you, you have a dark complexion. So
yeah.
For you to get skin cancer, you're like, what? How?
Look, first things first, I didn't know black people could get sunburned. I've only been sunburned once. And the first time that shit happened, I'm peeling. What's going on? I'm dying. I'm a lizard. I'm like, this is what white people go through every week.
Dude, the first time I went down near the equator, I could feel how intense the sunlight was. I was like, oh, yeah.
Okay. This is a deep conversation. It's going to get real racist. Oklahoma is a piece of shit. The fact that they made the Native Americans go to Oklahoma.
It's so fucked up.
Fucked. They got that.
The land is so hard to get, like, it's so hard to grow food there that you got to work that soil.
I went to college down there, so we drive down there. We get down there, it's 105 degrees. My truck ain't got no air conditioning. So I'm sweating. I'm like, and then you will walk outside in the air. Like, when the wind blows in the Midwest, the air is cool.
There's a
the
breeze.
air was hot.
Yes.
Yeah, the breeze was hot in Oklahoma. I'm like,
yes.
What kind of hell is this? Who lost a bet with God? And so you get down there. So when I graduate, it's all outside, and I get sunburned, and I'm like, man. So my nose is peeling, and I'm thinking, like, man, am I growing that fast? I'm growing. What's going on here? Like, it's sunburn, and my brother's telling you, like, literally, like, the sun is different in different places. The equate, like, but
it takes a little while for your skin to, like, harden or get used to it. But your body will adapt. Your body will adapt, though.
Well, I had been there 4 years, but I'm saying I never got sunburned. But again, I never been outside, 3 or 4 hours straight, just like, out there in the sun. But that's the whole thing, is that, we're so convinced and we're so told that things are this way, and we're indoctrinated. This is brainwashing at its highest level, and it starts early, and it gets in your head. And when somebody tries to tell you something different, like really, like, it's crazy that I don't know that real medicine that can actually help you is natural and doesn't have side effects. Me and you had this talk on an old podcast where I told you what this dude was arguing with me on Facebook about. I'd rather have I'm like, so how come when this was in natural form, when it was in a flower or in a plant, they took it out, and our shamans, our medicine men, our medicine women gave it to us, it didn't have side effects. But now all of a sudden, when they put it in the pill form, it has side effects. I said, you dumb fuck, the side effects are on purpose. So when a medicine has side effects, it causes you to go back to that doctor to get another cure, and you've created a customer 5 times over. But when you go to a natural remedy and that shit works,
I just want you to be healed and get the fuck out of my face. That's all that shit is.
No, you're laughing, but it's true. It's like, hey, I want what's best for you. Now get the fuck away from me. I'm back over here smoking my peyote, nigga.
Right.
Fucking with my weed.
So check this out, man. To wrap this up, to maintain is to rely on your internal compass to rely on useful wisdom that has been imparted upon you, and to avoid deception by those who would have you think that you don't have what it takes to control your own destiny, to
Stop living in a vacuum.
heal yourself, and to protect your family from food shortages or from manufactured disease.
Yeah. Look, stop living in a vacuum. Stop acting like you're the first of your kind. Stop acting like you're smarter than your ancestors. That is the most insulting shit you
So
can
arrogant.
do. Yeah, oh man, shit. My family was farmers. They don't know shit. They're country niggas from down south. But my bottom line is this: is that why would you lynch somebody? Why would you terrorize a group of people unless they had something? Unless they were better than you? Terrorists are a terrorist is somebody who's doing some bullshit to affect the group, right? The first terrorists in this nation were the Klan, and whatever it was, whatever these black people had, whether you call me nigga, black person, whatever we had, they wanted. And so it's really important to understand that we've been manipulated culturally and education wise to think that everybody is a slave, and everybody we didn't come from slaves. Before the slavery, there was us.
Exactly.
And before the slavery, we were already here.
That's
and
it.
I'm just saying, all I'm saying is the word nigga is up to you how you want to use it. But I'm simply stating this fact. Don't let somebody tell you that you were a slave when you weren't, because slavery did not. You enslaved me. I wasn't born a
Listen,
slave.
don't let people think that you were a slave and that's all you were. Because a slave is not a race. A slave is a connotation of somebody that's a captive.
Yes,
so
slave is not a race.
Look,
period.
That's all I got. We out. Peace.
Alabama.